Hello everyone! For this video I used information from published books, the Canon Fire website and Living Greyhawk material. If you liked the video, please tell a friend or share it online. Helping others find this lore is very much appreciated. I would like to thank all of you who have also subscribed to the channel and website. I will keep trying to convince the other 40% watching my content to take the leap and join the league as well by smashing that subscribe button. Now grab a drink, relax and let's take a journey in Greyhawk. This is the Grand March, occupying the fertile plains, bordered in the east by the Lord Mill Mountains, and in the west by the expansive dim forest, while the northern baronies here enjoy a temperate, dry climate. In the south, the dim forest and the Rushmore swamp generate dark mists and frequent showers. For commandant and country, I do solemnly swear that I will serve with true faith and allegiance in the Grand March military, that I will support and defend Grand March against all enemies, and I take this obligation freely without reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will discharge my duty well and faithfully. The Oath of Induction. Welcome to the Grand March, foreigner. About 200,000 humans from mixed heritages live in these lands today, with even about 10% of those pure-blooded Flan, most living in either the barony of Harnarchus in the Lord Mill Hills or near the dim forest. These pure-blooded Flan, together with the 20,000 or so dwarven, gnomish and halfling communities, have one thing in common. They belong to the same social class, you see, the Elite. There are no significant number of elves in the Grand March. The dim forest holds a community, but most do not fall into the forested area that falls in the Grand March. Now, the Elite living in their autonomous domains within the March are not beholden to any baron, but answer only to our commandant. The Flan Elites generally have a hereditary chieftain. Dwarves elect princes, while halflings may elect their leadership. Within their domain, Elites are governed by their own laws, which may or may not have any relevance to March law. And while within the Elites' domain, all of us Marchers are subject to that law. The March has no right to claim, tax or levy the land, and they are effectively independent, friendly nations within the corpus of the March. There are several dozens of these Elite domains in the March, most of which predate the March himself, and a few of which predate Keeland. We, and the dwarves of course, like living in a structured and lawful nation. We are a hard-working and very proud people who are very loyal to our country. We hold the feudal system up as a banner, as we like to know our place, rights and responsibilities. Generally, the people are friendly and helpful, but, well, due to our history there is a prejudice and mistrust towards the Bukluni people. Understand that the prosperity of our country now is built on the sacrifices of innumerable soldiers in the past. Ours is a martial country, from top to bottom. And just like my son, every 15-year-old, after having completed any apprenticeship, enters the mandatory conscription for a period of up to 7 years. While girls that age may join as well, it is not mandatory. Mustering Day. It arrives in 2 years, perhaps the single most important holiday in the nation of the Grand March. On this day, all those soldiers who have completed their mandatory term of service in the army are mustered out, and a fresh batch of 15-year-old boys and girls are mustered in, to begin the process by which they could become highly trained soldiers in one of the most formidable armed forces. Only those who are so impaired that service of any kind would be impossible are released. It is an indication of our intense patriotism that even those that fall into this category often beg to be found able. The Grand March government considers citizens who do not make themselves available for service to be traitors, and will punish them by death, unless they can show good cause for their actions. Our military is the uniting factor in our society. Participation in the military breaks feudal bonds and allows for a level of social freedom and advancement not found in most other kingdoms. It allows the masses to earn wages not dependent upon a local lord's whim. And even though there is a strict social class system, farmers, like myself, are proud and respected as a vital part of the nation. It was us, farmers, that made sure food supply lines were kept up during the large campaigns the Grand March did throughout our history. Not to mention that every farmer has his sword above the hearth and would take it up when the local baron called upon our service. Besides the central lands supplying food products, the cities produce all sorts of products. The products we export the most, though, is cloth and clothing, from fancy dresses to leather armor. The dwarves and gnomes in the Lord Mill Mountains in the March produce copper and gems, which boosts the economy in up and down bursts. The manufacturing of weapons and armor is also large enough that we export the best quality across the Sheldamer Valley. At ease, recruit! There is a time for training, and there is a time for learning. To truly understand the history of the Grand March, one must look to distant past events in the Sheldamer Valley. Over a millennium ago, the Sheldamer Valley formed part of what was then the occluded empire of the Whispered One, the Lich Lord. When he was killed, his empire gradually fractured, and several small Flanay kingdoms arose. The northern Flan, living in the Grand March area, left their cities, however, and returned to the tribal system of government used before the rule of Vecna. This tribal system is what ruled the Sheldamer Valley for 100 years until the coming of the Sul at the end of the 5th century, before the Common Year. The Sul settling in Keelland were refugees in the Flannes and tired of war. As such, they used diplomacy and manipulation to forge Keelland with the native Flan and good-aligned non-human tribes located there. When word came from explorers that their ancient enemy, the Bacluni, were spotted far to the north, the Kiosh king created an order of knights, the Knights of the March, to secure the northern passes. To ensure that the knights were dedicated in their zeal, it was formed entirely out of Sul warriors. The knights were ordered to hold the pass near where Tornward is currently located and prevent any incursion of the Bacluni into the Flannes. Our ancestors had no interest in building a new kingdom, only to ensure a quick and secure path from Keelland to Tornward and defend against the Bacluni hordes beyond. This suited the various native Flan tribes and various other enclaves just fine, as they also had no desire to be joined in a unified kingdom. Thus, the patchwork of what was to become the Grand March was laid out, a central corridor controlled by the Knights of the March and the rest of the country controlled by various chieftains, thanes and speakers. Eventually, the Kiosh crown named the leader of the knighthood as commandant of the Grand March. The early 300s of the Common Year brought the Baclunish brazen horde to the lands of Ket. King Tavish I of Keelland ordered the foundation of the Knights of the Watch, built upon the basis of the Knights of the March and commanded by its leaders. This new international knighthood quickly spread to Joff, Bissell and the heart of the Keelland Empire, all the while retaining strong roots and key leadership in Grand March. Indeed, the commandant became titular ruler of the massive knighthood, as well as the leader of his nation. With the dawning of Keelland's wars of aggression in 350, Grand March gained international notoriety as the primary staging ground for the 2nd Expeditionary Army, which invaded Veluna from the southwest. After the success of that campaign, the capital of Hook Hill became a very important caravan stop. By 415 of the Common Year, life in the Grand March had grown extraordinarily difficult, due to the appointed commandant Berlikin, a harsh ruler who created a period of bitter oppression. King Tavish III, seeing only the impressive results, appointed the commandant to be the supreme commander of all the northern provinces, which at that time included Grand March, Bissell and much of Veluna. The death of Berlikin and the loss of Bissell and Velunese territories forced a change in Keelland's policy in the north. The king's first act was to allow the local nobles to elect one of their own to the position of commandant of the Grand March, and forevermore split that title from that of the Marcher Lord, titular head of the Knights of the Watch. Over the next few years, the first truly united government of the Grand March took form. And the Grand March is a young nation, but with deep roots going back to 161 years before the common year. A merchant rolls open his map of the realm. One day you will carry on the family business, my daughter, and you need to learn the lay of the land. Several hundred years before the Brazen Horde, what is now a poorly defined open border with Bissell was the frontier border to the wild foreign lands. Several border towers were built to help in the defense against whoever wanted to invade. These old border towers are the ruined remains of some of those towers. The dim forest is an ancient forest that was so large it once connected with Oidwood. Today it still covers a large enough area that parts of it are in the March of Bissell, the Grand March, and the Grand Duchy of Joff. I do not want you to go beyond our borders, daughter, so I will only focus on the parts that lies within the Grand March. The trees at the eastern edge bordering the Shire Plains are used for timber, and there is a lumber industry in the small towns of Carern and Gralston. But if you venture into the forest, you quickly realize why it is called the dim forest, for the trees become so broad and leafy as to make the ground beneath dim on even the brightest days. The dim forest here has a spine running through it, Taura Ridge. This ridge, combined with the broad trees, make the forest ideal for orcs, goblins and other nocturnal and light-hating creatures. But what will stop you sooner are the enormous nests of spiders and other crawlers that make their home east of Tauri Ridge. The ridge has ancient history attached to it, but only the elves in the western dim forest could tell you those stories. A wild river runs through the dim forest here. Crossing it on foot is folly, for the water rushes through a rough riverbed and can be quite cold. The river crosses the entire length of the Grand March and springs out of the Lord Mill Mountains at the eastern side, hence the waters can be cold depending on the season. The lakes on the river's journey from east to west are an excellent source of fish. The town of Buxton's Crossing sits at the center of the fishing trade, and the fish market in this town is famous throughout the country. Carrerin's Lake District is used to bind solid trees together and let them be carried through the forest by river until it reaches the town of Hockhoch. The great river eventually flows into the Yavan River, an enormously long river that flows all the way down towards the Hold of the Sea Princes. Midwood Vale ends into the barony of Farvale in the Grand March. A shifty road, sometimes deteriorating into a mere path, stretches from the town of Hockhoch to Buxton's Crossing and Hook Hill beyond. Farvale has been deforested a long time ago due to the included empire. Farvale has had farmers of Flan descent for hundreds of years, but the town of Arlane was officially founded in 556 of the common year, when explorers reported to the commandant that the land seemed to be extremely fertile, producing larger than normal crops. Soon after that, a large group of farmers arrived. Orlane quickly grew into a thriving community of 500 people, with the rest of the Vale divided into farms, respecting the boundaries of already established Flan farmers. Although Orlane is very much a farming community, by 575 in the common year, it has become a major trade point on the road east to west. What helped that development were several groups of adventurers that opened a small caravan track through the previously untraveled dim forests and the Grand March, investing in Fort Endurance, whose task it is to safeguard the passage. The track cuts through a narrow finger of the forest, and only lucky or well-armed caravans can expect to make the journey in safety. The Rushmoors, a thriving, ecologically balanced wetland filled with unique flora and fauna, but at the same time a fetid, dangerous place overflowing with dangers and diseases. The moor's water level is ever fed by the Yavan River, starting in the Barrier Peaks, and because the whole swamp lies in a depression, rain that falls in the Grand March eventually flows towards it. What keeps the area from forming into a large lake is that it drains in the Yavan River as it continues its journey south, and, near the Scheldt Ridge, drains into the Scheldemer River. The numerous rises throughout the swamp form small islands in the muck, which allow for lizard folk huts, outlaw camps, monster lairs, or simply those who wish isolation from society. At the eastern edge of the moors, there are several hundred Flan barbarians living in tribes. What makes the area livable is its ecological products, and that it has a microclimate. Air gets trapped inside the swamp, creating a humid, stagnant climate, with temperatures that can rise well above those of surrounding lands. The average temperature in summer here is 35 Celsius degrees, and in the winter it is 24 Celsius. The swamp is a very dangerous place, however, and Fort Tribulation is the closest outpost, keeping an eye out. If danger rears its ugly head, they send word to the city of Shibboleth. Why this caution? Well, local tales say that the swamp was once the home of the Whispered One, the Lich, Vecna, and that he was cursed to become the foul swamp after his demise. The remains of the rotted tower still stands within the moors. From this tower, Vecna supposedly sat on his spider throne, ruling over his occluded empire. The southern border is shared with the Kingdom of Keeland, and it is the Scheldemer River that separates the two. It has its headwaters in the Rushmoors and its mouth in the Azure Sea. Although only small ships can use the river from Shibboleth to Lorton Ford, beyond the latter the river broadens, and from the Azure Sea to Neal Dra even large vessels can travel safely up the river. Legend has it that the leader of the Knights of the March took out a map of the region and drew a straight line between the then imperial capital Neal Dra and the town of Tornwart in the March of Bissell, and then selected locations for fortresses, all at one-day travel intervals along that line. And now two of those fortresses became the towns of Shibboleth and Hookhill, and a roadway, known as the Watchtower Road, was eventually built linking all these keeps. Shibboleth, the seat of this barony, is small compared to other walled cities in the Flannes, but it is second only to Hookhill in size in the Grand March. The settlement used to be no more than a bridge and some houses, placed as a means of crossing the Scheldemer River, but with increasing number of travelers it quickly grew into a village. It became an important trading station for goods heading to the northern Scheldemer Valley and south into Keeland. The village became a town, with a plethora of inns, shops, and anything a traveler, trader, or merchant needs. The dangers crawling out of the Rushmoors forced the growing town to become a fortified town. It is thus not only a trading hotspot, but Shibboleth also stands guard over the eastern Rushmoors and keeps these lands safe. Between the Watchtower Road and the March of Rushmoors, where hundreds of Flan barbarians live, lie the tree-covered ruins of Fleet. Legends and myths surround this site, and the name Fleet can be found in ancient books describing it as one of the few Flan cities of old, with wide walls standing proudly upon the eastern plains as a stronghold against the wild lands. This could have been the city where Vecna was born, and said person violently destroyed. Vecna's name has become synonymous with pain, suffering, and the price of dabbling in magics not meant for the ken of mortal minds. So strong is his legend that local people believe the ruins here are those of Fleet and are to be avoided at all costs. None dare to set foot in it, lest to awaken the tortured spirits of the past. Lorton Ford is a walled provincial town that is located where the Kingdom of Keeland, the Duchy of Ulick, and the Grand March borders meet. Just like Shibboleth, it too started out as a bridge to cross the Scheldemer, but was added with a second bridge to cross the Lort River that connects the broadening Scheldemer River further down. This hamlet quickly grew into a town. It was a vital strategic location during the expansion period that made the Kingdom of Keeland into the empire it once was. To this day, Lorton Ford holds a strong military presence, even though relations with the Duchy and the March are now peaceful. Lorton Ford maintains the bridges so that safe crossing is assured and provides a safe place for diplomats of all three countries to meet and exchange news. A hotbed of political intrigue right there. Nowadays, it has become a major trading station where the three countries come to exchange goods, and as such, it has a surprisingly large wharf. You can jump on a small vessel here to sail upriver to Shibboleth or board a larger ship towards Neal Dra. Out east, on the border with the Duchy of Jülich, sits the small, walled regional town of Traziada. It is the gateway into the upper North Lord Plateau and offers safe crossing over the River Lord, which has a rough character this close to the Lord Mill Mountains. The town has good relations with the dwarves and gnomes of the Lord Plateau, and there are always groups of dwarves or a pair of gnomes in town passing through or here to trade. The Lord Mills, a low chain of mountains fading into hills due to its age, is the homeland of a plethora of cultures. The good folk, persuaded by the dwarven communities, acted in concert almost a century ago to expel most of Ordkind and vicious monsters from the Lord Mills. The dwarves are now the prominent culture inhabiting the mountain range, and clan leaders here are reputed to be as rich as princes, sought by emissaries from foreign nations for aid. This side of the Lord Mill Mountains sees a different flora than on the northeastern slopes. The slopes here are covered with sudden steep peaks and deep valleys, all dwarfed by Mount Cragmore, a narrow but steep peak. The valleys here still get the benefit of the occasional warm breeze from the azure sea, as well as the occasional thunderstorm rain that make sure the valley has dense forests of maples and beech. Tangled underbrush, encouraged by the favorable conditions, makes direct travel through these woodlands more difficult. Well-established trails are used when climbing these slopes, and travelers are well advised to keep to them. The fortified town of Cragmore is the center of the Cragmore valleys, and it sees as many dwarves and gnomes as it has humans. The surrounding hills and valleys are dotted with independent dwarven and gnomish allied communities, bringing trade goods such as minerals, gems, and even unique medicines from the caves and forests. Just east of the town, following a not very well maintained road, sits the fortified village of Topaz Pass. During the Hateful Wars, this pass was a strategic site, and today its walls are still kept in good shape, for it is foolish to believe nothing vile can creep out of the high slopes again, nor from the deep caverns of the mountains. Topaz Pass allows access to the higher slopes as well. If you follow the secondary road from Cragmore towards Anders Falls, you will marvel at the beauty of the many small but impressive rapids until the river reaches Anders Lake. Here the river forms a beautiful waterfall, unless it is summer when it is but a sliver. Anders Fall town, also fortified, sits in low hills and surrounded by lakes. It is a vital stopping point if you come from the west or south and wish to climb up into the Cragmore valleys. Hollowdell sits at the edge of the Cragmore valleys, and it is known for its gigantic lake. Although the lake and its surroundings seem peaceful, locals know it has not always been so, but they will not recount the tale, for what is spoken may become real again. If you ignore the tales spoken in Hollowdell, however, and only reside in the luxury village in Athel during summer, then you would find yourself in the most relaxing place in the land. The vast area between the dim forest and the crag valleys is called the Shirelands. It is mainly pastures and farmland dotted with low-lying hills and small woodlands. Next to the human population, it has some allied settlements of halflings, producing some of the most flavoursome food products in the country. From the large walled town of Proman that sits beside the scenic lake of its name, you have a perfect view on Mount Cragmore in the east and the green pastured lands that surround the town. Proman is located more or less in the center of the country, and although it is not the capital of the Grand March, it is most definitely the center of all its food production. The capital city of Hook Hill is the other settlement of note in the Shirelands. It is a walled city, most of which makes up one big district, with only the Commandant's Keep as a mini-district unto itself, as is the army headquarters. Next to the keep, the other most significant structure is the Cathedral Valorous of Feronius. Although the fate of the Archpaladin is followed by thousands, it is not the national fate, nor the only temple in the city. Many fates can be found here, but the Temple of Zilchus is perhaps the one with the most followers, or that is at least what they want you to believe. Hook Hill is the trading center for mineral products from the Lord Mill Mountains, specifically the iron from the dwarven mines. Precious materials are guarded every hour of the day in this capital. If you made it this far and enjoyed my video, please leave a comment and show your support by ringing that bell icon. I want to thank everyone that is already supporting me by sharing my content on other platforms, liking the videos and spreading the lore. I especially want to thank the patrons that sponsor my work and help me keep my gear and software running. If you want to interact more with me, head over to my community tab here on YouTube or go to the website where you can also join the league and decide on future videos through the sponsor meters. All the links are in the description. On a final note, I do not know all the artists whose work I used in this video. If you are an artist or know who is, please let me know so I can give the proper credit. Take care and happy gaming.